A very good morning. How's everyone doing? It's my pleasure, of course, to kickstart the marketing trends for in-course Asia this year with the rise of indie brands and the impact on Asia. Consumers today crave for brand authenticity and heritage, which is exactly how and where the indie brands connect with consumers today to reach out to them, to be of appeal to this group of consumers. Indie brands have been emerging. Within Asia, we are seeing a lot of the homegrown brands coming out, making their way into the global scene as well. And a lot of the Western indie brands are also finding their ways into the Asia market, which bring us here today to look at some of the successful indie brands, what we can actually learn from all these indie brands, and to also understand how they market themselves and whether they will actually have an impact on Asia and what are the kind of opportunities that sit within with the impact that they bring along. So just before I get started on the topic, I just want to briefly introduce Mintel to some of you who may not be very familiar. Mintel is the world's leading market intelligence agency. We are globally covered. We offer comprehensive reports, data. We also track new product launches every day. And with all of that and our global team of analysts sitting across the regions, across the world, across the globe itself, we are able to then generate very comprehensive, insightful analysis and recommendations on both the consumer and product landscape for our clients, giving them different forecasts for their business needs, for the next product innovations, for the next market, for the next product that will hit the market in the beauty industry. In today's presentation itself, we will look at a few things. We will first start to understand how indie brands come about, what gives them this success element to gain the kind of fame and influence within the beauty industry. Then we go on to understand a little bit about the millennials, who are usually the target audience of a lot of indie brands, be it globally or within Asia itself. And just before we end the session about some of the key learnings, we'll look at a few of the very successful, very iconic indie brands that we have actually identified. Learn from them, understand what are their core messages, what made them so unique within the beauty industry. Now, firstly, how the indie brands actually really came about, or even how do we really define indie brands? Now, indie brands usually come about when the founder identify a little gap or a little problem that they actually encounter. So kind of like filling in the gaps within the beauty industry itself. So it comes along with very interesting kind of like backstory. Everyone loves to hear stories. Consumers love to hear stories that actually connect them with the brand itself. Most of it start out small, so they are very independently funded, usually by the founders themselves. But they take into a lot of very little details when it comes to like packaging, branding, positioning, which makes them really unique and reach out to consumers very effectively. So design and functionality is always on point for them, and they usually also kickstart from social media, which is exactly where, like what we mentioned, millennials, their target audience, are most active on across a lot of social media platforms. So with this kind of social media friendly kind of a product with very interesting backstory, they then come together with a very different kind of marketing strategy, usually very interactive kind of marketing campaigns to tell a very compelling brand story to reach out and link up with consumers today. Successful indie brands caught the attention of a lot of beauty giants, especially in this year itself. But starting of 2016, we already hear a lot of the brand acquisition kind of news. Estee Lauder, for instance, they acquired Glam Glow in 2014. This didn't stop them. They are continually growing their portfolio. They have already also acquired Too Faced Cosmetics as well as Becca Cosmetics. Likewise for L'Oreal, I think their biggest acquisition was just recently of the It Cosmetics itself to complement their overall luxurious brand portfolio. Crowdfunding is one very effective and popular source for a lot of startup brands, a lot of young brands itself. And why it is so? Because crowdfunding itself allows this kind of brand owners to actually raise capital without giving up their equity to investors. It's also a very good way to validate the popularity, the demand for a product before you actually go on to the actual sale into the market itself. For investors to also see the potential of this kind of brands that they have actually come up with. So Purely Bee, for instance, is a Malaysia-based health and wellness portal. They took to the equity crowdfunding campaign, the ECF campaign itself, to raise capital to actually do their overall market expansion. They are currently only available in Hong Kong and Malaysia, and they have plans to expand within the wider Asia itself and to also introduce a few more features within their portal. So with this kind of funding and support, they are then able to actually carry on their expansion plans. These are some other very successful crowd-funded beauty innovations that we have seen in the market, which tells us why there's this increasing popularity of indie brands in the beauty industry. Thomas Clipper, this is a handmade men's shaving and premium cologne store itself. So Thomas Clipper actually started out with the very classic and basic, like a single blade, double-edged kind of a razor itself. Then it took to the crowdfunding side to actually launch the product, gather the capital itself, and also to know what consumers will want next from their range of products that they have. And they successfully gathered enough funds in July this year to actually launch their full range of the cologne collection and the travel set. MDM Flow, the founder behind this brand, is a very young lady at the age of 22 years old only. So this product itself is a range of cosmetics, which is also a reflection of all her obsessions. From her love for hip-hop, black and gold, beauty, fashion, she put everything into MDM Flow itself, this whole range of handmade lipsticks to cater to young millennials like herself. So again, starting out at a very young age, this is again telling us how indie brands has these kind of opportunities within the beauty industry. Not just products itself, mobile applications like Nail Snaps. This is an award-winning mobile application. It's very interesting. It can actually turn any photo, any image that you have seen into like a nail sticker where you can actually just stick it onto your nail. So basically anything that you see, like the flowers here, you can actually have it on your nails ultimately. So again, this is also a form of indie brands beyond just products innovations. Crowdfunding not just help with the startup of young brands. We have seen also how crowdfunding helps with product development for existing brands, like the case of Lip Smacker. So Lip Smacker actually launched this official taste maker, like a campaign in a way through the crowdfunding site itself to crowdsource for the next flavor. It's a very interesting and interactive kind of marketing campaign to also show their appreciation to their followers, for them to help create. Because they've been with the brand for so long, they will understand what they feel the brand can actually still provide for them. So this is actually tapping on their followers to tell them the next flavor that they would like to have. And the ultimate winner of this tastemaker kind of like competition will get to actually name the flavor, be part and be involved with the design of the next Lip Smacker product. A lot of indie brands also leverage on not just the crowdsourced kind of sites, but also social media to actually connect with consumers emotionally. A lot of emotional empowerment coming from these kind of private brands, these kind of niche brands itself. Glossier, for instance, they believe every woman is an influencer. I think this is a very powerful statement, apart from just leveraging on the typical bloggers that we are more familiar with. So they are tapping on every individual and unique network of their consumers to spread the word and the goodness of Glossier products itself. So they have actually introduced a kind of like a referral program within their website itself to encourage consumers to spread the word around about the brand. Lush Singapore, what they did is they came up with their own like a soap that is shaped in like a hand gesture. So they actually joined forces with the Advocates for Refugees Singapore to help send positivity to the refugees in parts of the world, to send them a message of hope. Again, a kind of like corporate social responsibility, the kind of emotional empowerment to connect with consumers. Another example is Tarte Cosmetics. They want to actually end cyberbullying. While a lot of activity takes place within the social media platform, there are also a lot of people who actually abuse the freedom of speech in that sense. So what they did was to encourage everyone to take a photo of themselves with the Kiss Mark hand and hashtag Kiss and Makeup. So it ties back very closely to their brand, but at the same time able to spread the kind of very valuable message to consumers to again connect with consumers. And we can see really how indie brands is playing very strongly on social media when we see how the hashtag indie makeup has already over 78,000 posts tagged to it. And we know consumers are really active there, is responding very well. When we know that about half of Indonesia consumers, they watch videos on Instagram. 12% of them actually shop via Instagram as well. Our consumers in Thailand, about 18% of them are drawn to products that can customize to them, which is exactly what indie brands does, customization, filling in the gaps within the market itself to connect with consumers. Now, understanding how indie brands really come about, we want to also understand the consumers that indie brands tend to target, which is the millennials. Millennials and indie brands tend to go kind of like hand in hand, and we want to understand why is it so? Why do indie brands really like to target millennials so much? Are they really the up and rising demographic group for not just indie brands, but within the whole beauty industry? Now, they are usually targeted because millennials are most receptive to new things, new innovations. They are also very tech savvy. They are able to find a lot of information online. Social media itself is a place of like an infinite space for information. So we hear from our UK beauty consumers, 24% of them are likely to shop with retailers that sell very niche products. Our US female millennials, 31% of them use beauty products and they get the information from things like YouTube. 37% of them get it from the online product reviews. Chinese millennials, about 35% of them, they are interested in trying mobile applications that can recommend things customized to their lifestyle, to their skin conditions. So very personalized kind of an approach when it comes to the products that they are looking for. So we see how some brands are already responding. In Japan, there's this cosmetics firm, Uno itself. They launched a website targeting very specifically the male university students. So they identify not just the millennials, but also within the male grooming space itself, how there's actually a lot of opportunities, particularly in a country like Japan, where the gentleman there really takes good care of their own grooming, shaving, body care, everything down right to skin care for their consumers. Another one taken from our Mintel trends. This is Sephora in Singapore. They launched a very interesting, I would say, campaign where they had this vending machine situated across some of the key bus stops along the city center of Singapore itself. So passerbys basically get customized makeup sets based on their personality. So they go through a short personality test, then they actually get a pretty customized kind of makeup set from the vending machine. So social media itself is definitely very critical for a lot of our business successes today. It has an influence on also how consumers are shopping. A lot of beauty industry are leveraging on social media to market themselves because a picture speaks 1,000 words. Posting something on social media will actually garner a lot of attention from consumers. 71% of the US consumers, they are the heaviest beauty buyers in the market and also very heavy social media users. So they feel that social media posts really encourage them to buy certain kind of products that they see online. UK consumers, about 40% of them, they are very interested in content that's posted online, and they like to actually follow a beauty brand itself on social media. When it comes to our Chinese women, 32% of them, they have actually worn makeup that is based on the looks that's recommended by bloggers. Again, how social media has that kind of influence on our consumers today. So millennials are definitely a focus for a lot of our brands today. They are very influential. They are most willing to try new things. They do a lot of research. 63% of our Brazilian millennials, they actually use their smartphone to do product research. 31% of our young millennials in the US, they feel that social media is actually a very good platform to actually reach out to them. 41% of UK very young millennials, they actually post selfie more than anyone else. More than 24% of the so-called older millennials. And not just millennials, our generation is following the footsteps of millennials very closely. They kind of like get influenced by millennials, and they are kind of gaining the kind of edge over the millennials as well, in gaining the attention of the brands in the market today. 56% of US generation consumers, they actually prefer advertisements that are very entertaining, where it doesn't feel like they are being marketed to actually promote, to sell them something that they must buy. US teenagers, they are drawn to social media posts that is very artistic looking. Things like flat lay that we always see on social media, on Instagram itself, those always garner a lot of likes from consumers. 28% of them actually likes to see videos that show them step by step in terms of like product demonstration. Previously, there was this trend of the unboxing on YouTube itself. Again, these are the kind of content that consumers are very engaged into. And of course, emoji, something that we use very largely, not just on the communication platform itself, but generally, emoji is largely used today across a lot of communication channels. So 60% of US teenagers, they actually use emojis to actually communicate. So the use of words is getting lesser and lesser for this group of consumers. This is looking at the product launches in the market that is specifically targeting the teenagers. So we look at the global new product launches taken from our Mintel GNPD. Products that have special claims that is specifically stating for teenagers. So we break it down by the subcategory. So we look across how even skincare, a lot of the color cosmetics are looking at targeting the teenagers itself. So teenagers, as mentioned, they are equally influenced. They have the equal crave and desire for personalized products for them. But bearing in mind, because they are young teenagers, price point will make a difference when brands are looking at targeting the teenagers itself. And over at the right side is just some of the examples of products that we have identified in the market that specifically target the teenagers, like Nip and Fab, the rescue pads that is meant for the acne-prone skin of teenagers. Estee Lauder came out with this special range, the Estee Edit itself, that is specially catered for the young millennials or even the I generation to bring in crowd for Sephora itself, to bring in specifically the millennials and the I generation crowd into the store for Sephora. So we've seen earlier on how the US teenagers communicate purely with emojis. So Chevrolet also did something very interesting. Their whole press release was written using just emoticons, using just emojis. I'm not sure if anyone can decipher this press release itself, but it basically injects a very hippie, a very fun element to actually attract, of course, again, the millennials, the I generation itself. So this kind of content that is very demographic specific is getting more known, getting more common within the beauty industry as they look into positioning their products to effectively reach out to the target audience. And it's not just on press release or communications. Emoji has made its way into product packaging as well. So we have seen how Innisfree, to celebrate their 11th anniversary for their best-selling No Sebum mineral powder itself, first quarter of this year, they actually came out with this very unique packaging that have different kind of emoji phases on the packaging itself. Airvel, they came out with also the emoji fragrances. That's really interesting. It's a travel size emoji themed fragrance. So the whole idea is that to tell consumers that they can actually wear happiness with them through fragrances as well. Face mask, Petit Aimé, they came out with this emoji series, this Taiwanese skincare brand. So on pack itself is different kind of emoji faces to actually convey the different kind of benefits of each of these sheet masks. So having seen how indie brands came about, understanding the target audience that a lot of indie brands are targeting, we now look at some of these indie brands, successful indie brands that we have identified in the market itself. We want to understand what is their core message, what is their theme to their brand itself, how and what make them so successful. So we have a few brands to look through, very much like case studies for reference to get inspirations from all these brands as well. So one of the common theme, I would say, from a lot of indie brands is going for the minimalist kind of approach. SW Basics is one of them. They believe less is more. So they go by a lot of the minimalist skincare. They state the number of ingredients that they actually put into their formulation, indicating it on pack itself. So a product like SW Basics, like one of their products is the freeze-dried aloe vera powder. So this kind of product itself uses only one ingredient, which is what a lot of consumers today are into as well, natural ingredients, simplified formulation itself that allow them to actually streamline their skincare routine. So a product like that also allows consumers to just mix and match with their moisturizer, add it on to their serum for the additional boosters into their product itself. So like quoting from the founder from SW Basics, what they say is that it's all about simplicity, which is exactly resonating with consumers today, particularly the millennials. Alice of Skin. This is a brand from Singapore that has successfully made its way to the global scene. It's one of the, it's in fact the first skincare brand from Singapore to have made its way to the high-end e-commerce store in US, like Net-a-Portal, Farfetch. Started about 4 years ago with only one product. Alice of Skin believe that the product that they have serve as the backbone of a lot of skincare products. You don't have to discard all your existing skincare products to fit theirs in. Theirs can actually cater to different kind, match with, work alongside with a lot of other skincare products to give you that additional boost to your skin itself. What makes them really successful? They don't do any editorial, all the reviews that they see online is actually very genuine comments and reviews from the consumers. So again, this kind of like authenticity and transparency in their brand is what makes them so successful and being able to actually make their way into the global scene itself. And we mentioned earlier on how indie brands usually comes along with very interesting backstory. So they capture the interest of consumers. Cuvée Beauty is one of them. So this brand, this product, it's a hair care product, by the way, from the US, come about very ironically from a happy accident that the founder had in Las Vegas after a party itself. So she was, I think, drunk in a way, and she ended up, having champagne all over her hair, but she woke up with very glamorous, smooth-looking hair. And so I think that was a very interesting story for a lot of consumers. And she decided that she should actually bottle that up, this bottle of goodness of champagne, not just for drinking, but even for taking care of the hair itself. So very interesting tagline that she has for her brand as well, a champagne toast for your hair. So a kind of like a cross-category kind of approach where you borrow from the food category. So the product itself, Cuvée Complex, features champagne extracts, other skincare grade ingredients to actually treat the hair to deliver very good results and benefits to the hair itself. And we talk a lot about the emotional empowerment, emotional expression. This is a brand from US, Milk Makeup, that has been really popular, I think, recently. Established just last year. They are very known and popular, and what makes them so successful is their very consistent brand image. Their packaging, as you can see, very boldly is always shouting out their brand logo, Milk. So targeting to a very wide audience regardless of age or even gender. Their packaging is very impactful. They are one of the first few to actually launch a solid face toner. So again, offering the kind of convenience for consumers, especially millennials today who are always in transit, who are always traveling. They will want something that is really handy and convenient to bring around. Not just that, their digital strategy is very powerful. It encompasses a lot of key social media platforms to reach out to consumers. So they blend in their every individual stories for who uses their product with fashion, with music. So it really targets a very wide group of audience from all walks of life, with different kind of lifestyle, with different stories to tell. Another one is Timothy Han. The brand is exactly following the name of the founder itself. Started about 3 years ago. They believe that fragrances is not just for the mass market. Fragrances can be for every individual. So this is what makes them really stand out, aside from how a lot of their packaging is taking inspiration from literature. So the product packaging, as you can see, is actually very outstanding. It's like a piece of artwork that can sit alongside very nicely on your bookshelf because it's designed in the shape of like a hardcover book itself. And in it, you can actually find very customized, curated kind of fragrance itself. So each carton is the exact size of, like I say, a paperback kind of book that you can actually serve as also a very good display. So again, as what we mentioned earlier on, packaging is always very detailed when we talk about indie brands. Glossier again. So social media driven kind of brands is something that we are seeing a lot more, and we can expect to see a lot more happening going forward. Glossier started out from a blog. So the founder started writing on a blog itself where it features a lot of interviews with models, entrepreneurs, beauty editors itself, where she gets insights into a lot of different kind of beauty routines. So from there, she understands and identified the gaps that sits within the beauty industry, and she came up with this Glossier skincare range of products. So what's very successful for them, when they design the packaging, they have Instagram in mind. they have the selfie generation consumers in mind. So they came out with this packaging, which is this wash-out kind of a pink packaging, which is so iconic that it actually has its own hashtag today, which is the hashtag Glossier Pink on Instagram itself. So reaching out again on social media very largely to consumers, promoting a lot of the peer-to-peer kind of recommendations, and it's possibly the next generation of the door-to-door selling itself in the US. Another social media-driven brand, this is Way. So Way, if I get it correctly, it means yes in a casual Parisian way. Yeah, I get a nod. So this brand started from this founder itself. So he has in mind targeting really the fast fashion consumers, the Zara wearing audience itself. So disrupting really the current hair care market, the hair care category that we are seeing in the beauty landscape itself. So again, as mentioned, they are very social media driven. Their influence on social media is very strong across category, across the overall generation itself. So their product similarly is selfie worthy. This is a way to actually get their word across on Instagram itself, which is exactly how and where they started. This is pronounced as Juara. This is a brand from Indonesia, which also means a winner or champion. So local wisdom, this is another approach that some indie brands are adopting. So they basically leverage on very local, traditional ingredients to win the hearts and attention of our consumers. So in this case of Juara, this is their range of skincare products that is taken from Indonesian botanicals and herbal traditions known as the Jabu. So a lot of research is done in Indonesia itself and then manufactured and made in the US itself. So leveraging on this kind of local culture is again what we talk about brand heritage, sharing the kind of knowledge of traditional health and wellness to consumers, embracing the overall Asian beauty rituals with a mix of the modern touch to reach out to the consumers today in this modern industry. Charling is also another brand that actually leverage on the local wisdom kind of approach. Now, Charling is a brand under the LVMH, which shows us also how beauty giants like LVMH is also adopting a niche brand kind of approach, coming out with a brand like Charling. So Charling itself embodies a very traditional culture, a Chinese culture, I would say, and it happens very unplanned way in the sense that founders actually chance upon this unparalleled landscape in China, which is a rainforest that has access to this very precious, very authentic pu'er, the pu'er tea. So pu'er tea itself possesses very powerful, as well as very natural antioxidant, which they feel can actually be put into a skincare range, and this is how Charling came about, that is really based on just pu'er tea. So again, brand heritage is very strong when we talk about the local wisdom kind of a concept and approach for a lot of brands. So it resonate very well, of course, with Asian consumers. Not just that, it will also generate interest among Western consumers who are also very keen and people who also appreciate the Asian culture and tradition within the region itself. Lastly, the celebrity brand is also a form of indie brands that we see. This is definitely not newsworthy. I believe everyone has heard of this brand. It's taken the beauty industry by storm. Fenty Beauty by Rihanna. This is a very strong brand with very strong icon and self-expression. They believe that beauty is for all. That's why they came out with 40 shades of foundation. They believe that foundation can be made available to everyone across different skin tones, skin type, and skin condition itself. So there's always something for everyone to match their skin color. So it really tugs to the hearts of women, especially when we talk about female empowerment that is largely discussed in the beauty industry today as well, regardless of race, regardless of status in the society. So we have seen the past few indie brands. We understand how they have actually emerged within the very competitive and crowded beauty industry, from packaging to branding to marketing, how and what makes them really successful. And what does this mean in this case for Asia? What is the impact that we actually bring about for Asia itself, and what are the opportunities that we can actually find for our region itself? Now we have seen how crowdfunding is one of the very popular platform for the startup of a lot of young brands, and it will continue to be so. It will serve as a platform for a lot of startup brands itself. The access to OEM companies is becoming easier these days with technology, with the developments in supply chain itself. The world is getting smaller, as what some people will say, because technology brought us all closer together. And this is also the same reason why a lot of indie brands, a lot of young brands are actually come about within the beauty industry. So the kind of partnering with this kind of beauty factories, the access with technology like social media, or even like live streaming kind of a marketing campaign itself will continue to drive the rise of young brands, the drive of the indie brands itself. Social media, we hear so much about it. We have seen brands that purely start up from Instagram itself. Social media is critical for a lot of businesses today. It serves as not just a sales channel, but also a very strong marketing communication channel for a lot of brands today to appeal with consumers, coming up with very interesting, compelling backstories to connect with consumers. Again, we cannot emphasize enough about brand heritage, brand authenticity, that kind of a brand DNA to actually link up with consumers. It's important for brands to really understand the kind of target audience, the demographic that they are looking at. Is it the millennials? Is it the I generation? Who are you really targeting? Because your content has to be relevant to this group of audience. While technology has made it convenient for a lot of consumers' attention span today is very short. They are also very selective in terms of the kind of content they are looking at. So it's important for brands to identify their target audience, to generate demographic-specific content, to have that kind of effective marketing campaign. And lastly, I think with the rise of indie brands that we see starting out mostly from online platform, we feel that there's actually opportunities for these indie brands to move out of the cyberspace, to go into the retail stores, for consumers to actually have an actual feel and touch of the brand, to have an even stronger connection with this kind of indie brands itself. So these then bring about this kind of opportunities for retailers in Asia, especially for Western indie brands that are actually finding their ways into the Asia market. Mintel trend, the Popscape actually suggests the rise, the popularity of pop-up stores that we are seeing a lot in the Asia market, Asia retail scene. So pop-up stores can suggest very good opportunities for indie brands, for limited edition launches, for special launches into the market itself, for Western brands especially. So the kind of very strategic partnership is important for a lot of these kind of indie brands to work with multi-platform, multi-e-tailers, retail channels across Asia itself, for them to actually expand their presence out of their own local market to the wider region itself, be it in the US or is it for the Asia market itself. So with that, I end this session on the rise of indie brands and the impact that it has on Asia. And I hope this session has been insightful enough to give you good inspiration on how and what the next indie brand might be within the beauty industry that can actually, trigger and continue to make its way within this very competitive beauty landscape. Now, we are also part of the innovation zone for InCourse Asia this year. So we have this year, the theme is Stages of Beauty. So do join us later at about 2 p.m. where we look at different kind of product innovations in the market catered to different generation, different life cycles of our consumers. Thank you.